It's been over half a century, but we're finally doing it. Humans are heading back to the moon. In fact, right now, the crew of Artemis II is right in the middle of this epic 10-day journey. And let me tell you, this is a mission that's pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, really testing the limits of deep space exploration and setting the whole stage for our big return to the lunar surface. And you know, this quote from mission specialist Christina Koch, wow, it just perfectly captures the feeling, right? We all kind of had a collective expression of joy. Just imagine that for a second. You're looking out the docking hatch, and there it is, the moon. She says it's a beautiful sight. I mean, can you even begin to picture it? Earth getting smaller and smaller behind you, and the moon just getting bigger and bigger. That feeling of pure wonder. That's what this whole mission is about.
So this is a huge moment. On day 3 of the flight, the Orion spacecraft crossed this invisible line in space, but oh man, was it a significant one. This was the exact point where the moon's gravity finally became stronger than Earth's. Think about that. From that moment on, they weren't just flying to the moon, they were officially falling towards it.
There's actually a name for this, the lunar sphere of influence. The easiest way to think about it is like crossing a cosmic border. You know, you're leaving Earth's jurisdiction and entering the moon's. The laws of physics, of course, they don't change. But the main thing pulling on you, guiding your path, that switches from our home planet to the moon. It's got to be one of the most profound moments you can experience on a trip like this.
All right, so what's it really like for these astronauts? I mean, they're hundreds of thousands of miles from home. You might think it's all science and heroism, and, well, it is, but it's also surprisingly normal. It's this wild mix of the heroic and the very, very human. Let's dive into what their daily life actually looks like up there.
Okay, on the one hand, you've got these incredibly intense, high-stakes jobs. We're talking about astronauts literally taking the stick and flying Orion manually. This is no video game, that's for sure. They're testing out different thruster modes, really pushing the spacecraft to see what it can do. And why? Well, think about it. When you're that far from home, there's no AAA. You can't just call a tow truck. All the data they're gathering right now is absolutely critical to make sure future crews know how to handle any kind of emergency, all by themselves. So you have them doing all this heroic, complicated stuff, but at the same time, they're just people, living in a metal can for 10 days. And that comes with some very real and sometimes, let's be honest, frustrating problems. So what's the one system on board that's been making all the headlines back here on Earth? Any guesses?
Yep, this sums it up perfectly. The two sides of space travel. On one side, you're a hero, piloting a state-of-the-art spacecraft through the vacuum of space. And on the other, you're dealing with a broken toilet. You heard me right. The lunar loo has been on the fritz. It's just a perfect reminder that no matter how far you go or how advanced your tech is, some problems are just universal.
So here's what happened. First, the crew noticed a burning smell. Then they figured out the urine vent was blocked. The main suspect? A little chunk of ice. So what do? Well, the astronauts had to switch to using backup devices. Meanwhile, Mission Control came up with a pretty clever idea. Point the blocked vent directly at the sun and use its heat, plus some onboard heaters, to try and melt the ice. It kind of worked. They were able to half-empty the tank. But yeah, the troubleshooting is ongoing. It's just such a real human problem to have to solve in the most extreme environment imaginable.
But okay, all this stuff, the intense piloting tests, the plumbing issues, it's all leading up to something. It's all building towards the absolute climax of this mission, a historic, record-shattering flyby of the moon.
And this number right here, this is the one you're going to want to remember. 252,757 miles. That's how far from Earth the Artemis II crew will be at their most distant point. We're talking more than 250,000 miles. This is a brand new record for the farthest any human being has ever traveled from our planet.
And just to give you some perspective on that, the old record, it's been standing for over 50 years. It was set by the crew of Apollo 13 back in 1970. Artemis II isn't just going to beat that record, they're going to smash it by over 4,000 miles. We are pushing that frontier further out than we ever have before. It's just incredible.
And this whole flyby, it's like a perfectly timed dance in space. So, at 1:56 p.m. Eastern, boom, they break the Apollo 13 record. Then they get this amazing 7-hour window to just observe the moon. But the real nail-biter, that starts at 6:47 p.m. That's when Orion slips behind the far side of the moon and all contact with Earth is cut. For 40 minutes, they will be completely, utterly alone, no one to talk to. And in that silence, they'll make their closest approach. You better believe at 7:27 p.m., the entire world is going to be holding its breath, just waiting to hear their voices again. And while they're back there, they are going to see things that no human being has ever seen with their own two eyes. Their flight path is going to give them a vantage point on the far side of the moon that is totally unique. We're talking craters and features that we've only ever seen through probes. This is not just another trip around the block. This is a real mission of discovery.
So, all of this really brings up the big question, right? Why? Why are we doing all this? And the answer is that Artemis II is so much more than just this one flight. It's a hugely important step in a much, much bigger plan for our future in space.
You know, this connection between the past and the future. It was captured so perfectly in a message sent to the crew by Charlie Duke, an Apollo 16 astronaut. Get this. The lunar module he landed on the moon back in 1972 was also named Orion. It's incredible. It's like a literal passing of the torch from one generation of explorers to the Artemis generation.
And that's really what Artemis II is all about when you get right down to it. It's the ultimate dress rehearsal. Every single system on that spacecraft, from the air they breathe to the computers that guide them, is being pushed to its limits with a human crew on board for the very first time in deep space. The success of this flight is what gives the green light for everything else that's planned. We're talking a sustained presence on the moon, and then, finally, landing the next woman and the next man on the lunar surface.
So this mission is doing all the hard work. It's laying the foundation. It's proving the tech works, and it's showing we have what it takes. It's our final check before we really commit to returning to the moon. And it leaves us with this incredible question to think about. What are we going to find? What new science, what new discoveries, what new inspiration awaits us when we finally go back, not just to plant a flag and leave, but this time to stay?